to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. The first thing on our agenda is the consent agenda is the minutes of the October 18th meeting.
I'll make motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions, discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up, we have Rhonda Hope, Myrna McGrath, and Sandy Peterson, board members from the Newtown Avoca Courthouse Committee. Discussion decision to approve and authorize the board to sign the lease renewal with the City of Avoca and Newtown Avoca Historical Society for the Avoca Courthouse. Who is going to lead? Rhonda?
Hello. So I am Rhonda Hope, and this is Sandy Peterson and Myrna McGrath, and we're here today to represent the historical courthouse in Avoca. And we would like to ask you, the Pottawatomie County Board of Supervisors, to renew your lease on the office spaces in the courthouse located in Avoca under the terms that are currently in place. We are requesting approval of a new 2-year lease at the rate of $15,000 a year for the next 2 years. This rate has not changed for many years. I've been the president for about 20 years, and it's been $15,000 for at least that long. So we provide an office for the Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Department, and we're very happy about that. We actually, it's been a few months ago now, the Journal Herald featured one of the sheriffs on the front of the page of our paper because we just like to have, it's wonderful to have that presence of those sheriffs in our community. And we love it that they're using an office space, and they all have, I believe I just sent another 4 keys because the department has expanded. So every sheriff has a key and they have 24/7 access to that courthouse. We're happy about that. Now, after Darlene McMartin retired, then COVID hit, and I never did get to meet the representative of the Veterans Affairs department after Darlene. I never got to meet him. I talked to him on the phone a few times, but with COVID, he never came out and utilized the veterans offices that we provide. So I was determined when I heard that he was no longer a part of the Veterans Affairs office, I was determined to meet the new people and make sure that we got those services out to Avoca for the people on the eastern side of the county. So then when I found out that Margarita Dooley and Randy Markle were chosen to take that position on, I called her right away. I think she was hired Valentine's Day, actually, on that Monday of February 14th. I called her a couple days later and said, when can I get you out? And she and Randy were very happy to come out. And we actually I got a few of the veterans to meet with them. And we checked out the office. I gave her the keys, and we set a time to have an open house. And we did have a big open house, and that was on May 5th. And I did a bunch of advertising in the Avoca paper and the Oakland paper. So that included all the veterans from the Avoca, Minden, Neola, Oakland, Walnut, Carson, Macedonia. It pretty much included everybody but Council Bluffs, Trainer, and Underwood by having that in those 2 papers. And I know, Justin, you came to it and attended. It was wonderful. Lynn, you were there. It was wonderful to see you. Had a great turnout that afternoon. We just had some cookies and coffee. A lot of veterans came. Rita is very personable. Randy's very personable. And honestly, I stop in every once in a while. And when I know that they're there, and there's always 1 or 2 or 3 veterans there in the chairs waiting to visit with them. So I think those services were much needed, and I'm glad that the veterans are using that opportunity. We also have the Pottawatomie County Treasurer that comes out to collect property taxes twice a year. Makes it handy for our elderly people that don't like to come to Council Bluffs, or they want to do that in person if they have questions. So that's very handy for our area. Our historic courthouse is the focal point of our downtown area. Our Christmas holidays on Main and our 4th of July celebration feature a lot of activities that are centered around the courthouse. Our Avoca is a designated Main Street community. And through that Main Street organization, We have a lady hired that is our director. She has an office there in the courthouse, and she holds many meetings with people from Des Moines and other local Iowa communities, and so we get a lot of exposure through her too. So we're really excited about her and what she does. Through her, we've gotten the farmers market that all through the summer. It starts in May and it ends the end of September. That's every week and brings a lot of people to town. And it's once again, it's right there on the block of the library and the courthouse. So we get a lot of exposure there. And we're excited about that. In recent years, we have had attorneys call me and want to hold depositions up in the courtroom. We've had students from local schools come. They want to hold mock trials in the courtroom. That's exciting. We still have kids that want to be involved in those kinds of things. We have a really strong Avoca Boy Scout troop, very strong troop. And they start all the way from little guys clear up through seniors. And through our troop, we've had a lot of Eagle Scouts graduate through that program. But they also come, not a lot. They hold their meetings actually at the Legion Hall most of the time, but once in a while there was a badge that they have to earn, and they'll come to the courthouse and they'll hold a meeting there, and the mayor, somebody will meet them down there, city council meetings, and they'll earn badges there. We've even had a few years ago, 5 Eagle Scouts hold their ceremony in the courtroom and brought a lot of family and friends to attend that. That was a pretty exciting time. In the basement of the courtroom, we offer a research room that holds some old county records, and these ledgers are just humongous. They're just kind of fun. But anyway, I don't know what the intent of those records were. I don't know if they were going to get thrown away or not, but years ago they were conserved, and there's some records that say births and deaths and land transactions. And so local youth was for a Eagle Scout project. He actually cleaned it up, refurbished it, repainted it, and then some of the historical members that belong to the Avoca Museum helped him categorize those. And so all those old ledgers are downstairs. And we, unbelievably, believe it or not, we do have people that call and they want to go down and do some genealogy research. So those still get used, and it's kind of fun that we still have those requests. Recently, just kind of fun, we've got a tour bus group, and I think they come out of Fremont, and they've been bringing buses of people out to Avoca on their little stops. They do these little mystery tours in little communities in Iowa, and they've picked Avoca a few times and brought little groups out because they want to see that courthouse, they want to see that courtroom. So the word's getting out. So we've been on a few tours, which I think's been kind of fun here lately. Let's see, what else did I want to share with you? Currently, the Potawatomi County Recorder's Office has been coming out on the second Wednesday of every month to offer a passport day for our citizens in our end of the county. And then tomorrow, I'm very excited, we're actually going to hold, for the first time in a long time, we're going to actually have some satellite voting, early voting. And so I was real happy when a young gal contacted me and said, would it be possible to use the courthouse and hold early voting? And because I know we have like I said, so many elderly people that, just really want to do that in person. They don't want to stand in line and wait in line for that, but they want to get that done, and they don't want to do absentee ballots. So we're offering that tomorrow at the courthouse. So I'm very happy about that. So anyway, I think I think I've covered pretty much everything that we've got going on. And like I said, I thank you for all your past support over the years. Without you, it'd be a struggle for us to keep it open and keep things going on. We have, our part of the portion of maintaining that building is quite a bit, actually. We are in charge of all the utilities, so you know what that's going to be this winter. They're already talking about that all the time. It's not been cheap anyway, and then of course with everything happening, we're expecting those bills to increase. So that's, we're in charge of the gas, the water, and the utility of the electricity. We have liability insurance, and we all know what's happening there. That's going up every year. We have a cleaning staff. It's a great gal, local gal in town, and she's very particular and very meticulous. And we get a double bang for our bonus with her because her husband's a local contractor and there isn't anything he can't do or fix. So if she sees something out of line, she calls him, and he's Johnny on the spot because he has to live with her. So he's great. He repairs windows and hangs fixes the gutters and he does everything for us, so we're lucky to have the two of them. And then, of course, you know, you've got your janitorial supplies and just the regular maintenance. And what means it's an old building, we have regular pest control that we have to do every once in a while too. I guess Randy Markle, the veterans gentleman, called me up a couple of weeks ago and he says, Rhonda, I'm not afraid and I'm not allergic, but he says, we've got some wasps up in a light fixture up above my desk. What? And so I went down there and I called the cleaning lady and her husband brought a ladder and I don't know how they got in there and he sprayed them and it was fine and Randy wasn't worried. He just said, you know, I just wanted you to know because we don't want somebody to get stung that comes in here like the tax gal, like Leah or somebody, you know, how that ever happens. So we do have regular pest control. So he's actually coming today. And then, like I said, with our regular maintenance and everything, we do have quite a lot of expenses. So we sure appreciate your past support over the years. And I would be just, like I said, it'd be a terrible struggle to try to keep that open. And it's a beautiful building and I feel like it gets used quite a bit. Oh, and we have been doing some advertising here lately. Like I said, I wanted to make sure that the Veterans Affairs, you know, because we had a dry spell there when Darlene retired. We didn't really have any services. And so I did quite a bit of advertising in the Oakland paper and the Avoca paper to get the word out that he was going to be out there. And then we've been putting ads in the little travel guide, just a little small ad, and that's probably what's getting the buses out to our communities. But it's not just helping Avoca. I mean, I'm sure that they go up to the Embers and eat lunch, and they, you know, spend some money and check out the flower shop and the little boutique next to me, and I'm sure then they go to Walnut and look at something over there. So I think it's really helping. Our courthouse is just kind of part of that it kind of brings people out, and then while they're there, they're going to look at some other things. So anyway, thank you again for all your past support, and I hope we can count on you for future support.
What year did the county leave the courthouse out there?
Oh,
I believe it was 1994, 1995. I moved to Avoca in 1995, and the courthouse committee was active then and working on the building.
Okay.
So it's been quite a while, and we have also we've had to replace air conditioners and replace the roof, and we do a lot of maintenance work, and the city is active in helping with those things. But the expenses that Rhonda was talking about are all ours. We're all the regular upkeep and maintenance on it.
Well, I
So,
like your
thank
update on it. That was really nice.
thank you.
I'd make a motion to approve $15,000 for this year and next, if we can do that.
They wanted, yeah, okay.
A 2-year,
I'll second that.
okay?
I guess for discussion,
Thank you.
just, you know, I guess if there are tenant improvements we need to make, I guess just make sure we let, you know, especially Randy, he'll be able to tell us, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
let our folks know and we'll make sure we take care of that too. I mean, I think this is a really valuable partnership that we have with you. It's nice to see that we have, you know, that piece of history being taken care of, so thank you.
Great,
Thanks
thank
for all
you.
you do for
Thank
that.
Thank you.
Is there anything different in the lease than before?
No. I think we took out a couple misspelled words.
It's the same
It's the
lease
same
that's
lease.
been, historically has been signed,
Yeah.
the agreement.
It was renewed in 2020.
Yes.
when we did
Yes.
Yes, we actually, because of COVID, we did not attend, so we haven't seen you for about 4 years. We do come on the even years, you probably get sick of us.
it. We're still good looking.
You are. Agreed. But thank you, thanks for your support.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there any other discussion for any of our Avoca representatives? Okay, that's something that we've been
Great,
doing.
thank you.
We gotta take photos.
We have a motion and a second.
Yep.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. There you go.
Great,
So
thank
much.
you so
Good.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Did you bring the
Stop in
original?
anytime.
Pardon me?
Did you bring the original with you, or you want me to send it?
I emailed it to Jeanette, I
Okay.
believe.
Photocopy's fine.
Photo, is that okay?
Okay with me.
Okay,
Do you want this?
okay with us.
Just send me a check, right?
Well, and
And we need a couple signatures.
Is that,
we have an
a one-year
invoice.
payment or?
to have approved for
It's
payment.
15,000 a year, and we just
Okay.
do,
They came up.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then
if
next
you
year
email
I'll
that,
send
she-
another
we
bill.
got it.
Jeanette has
Yeah,
it, yeah.
You'll get the claim into the,
Pardon me?
we'll have to claim into the.
We've submitted an
You already have it?
invoice,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, great, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Rhonda, hold on one second.
Oh, yeah.
Here's our signed copy. If you want to take
Oh.
this into Jeanette,
I
she'll
will.
make a copy of that.
I
You
will.
can get your other signatures.
I will, thank you. Thanks.
Hope we have a good turnout tomorrow.
Oh, I hope so too.
It's gonna be very busy.
Okay, moving on. Next we have discussion with the city of Hard Lake regarding small town needs. I know we have Mayor Ron Emily with us.
Eric's gonna take the lead here. He has some handouts here he can share with you.
As we talked about in all of our other meetings when the towns came, is that, we partnered with the Iowa West Foundation on some of the larger projects. And I think Carter Lake was one of those 5 that were selected for that. This is addition to that, we're given another about 1.5 million for the other small towns. Once we have all of the towns,
Thank you.
that have presented their requests, we will get together as a board.
Thanks.
Determine 1 or 2 projects for each town, get it back to you, and you can make your decision on which ones you want to move forward with. So with that, I'll turn it over to Charlie.
Well, first of all, thank you all for entertaining this. I gave this to you, the top portion, I sent it ahead, but the total amount was different just because I've been waiting for a bid from the people with the marquee, and it actually came in a little bit lower, so I adjusted the price, and so the total will be different from what was sent to you. Other than that, everything's the same. This is something we've been talking about for at least a dozen years. And wanting to, our flagpoles are up against the building, and if you want to fly a flag at half mast, scrape against the building and everything, so we wanted to move them out to where they'd be presentable, in a proper manner. And so we thought about doing a more comprehensive project where the fact of, including the marquee so we can notify the residents of fire prevention items, pancake breakfast, we like to honor our members for, job well done, things of that nature. And then also, anything that the city might want to be able to get out, to the community, we can also utilize that marquee for that. There'll be 2 flagpoles set out there to fly the American flag and the state of Iowa flag. And then we have our fire flags, our fire and EMS flags. But also one of the biggest things is whenever we have a past member or current member that's deceased, we usually always drape the station. But one of the things we wanted to do for years is design our own memorial flag. And we're in the process of designing that flag. We do have one, but it's pretty generic. We want to have our own just to signify it, that it's part of Carter Lake. And so that will also be an opportunity, to fly that so people know, get used to knowing that this is what, how we're honoring our fallen. The statue, we looked at, the gentleman is a local, in the county area. He's from Neola. He's done all the Eagles, so that have been around, and I believe he's done several art projects in Council Bluffs also. That kind of was a big shock for us. When we started looking at this, the marquee was only like $8,000 to $10,000, and so you can obviously see, like everything else, nothing gets cheaper. And the gentleman, Russ Penny, I don't know if you,
Yeah.
so you're familiar with him?
Oh, yeah.
And so therefore, he indicated to us if we would have done this 2 years ago, it would have only been around $20,000. And so you can see it's astronomical the way things have increased in some portions of this project. So that's, we feel an urgency to get it done because the cost does always go up, but it also is going to be a significant piece of the city where as you go around from City Hall, you kind of see that, you know, you can identify everything as far as the city, and this is gonna be, it's real stone, we're not going with anything, you know, we're trying to do a real class project here, where it's not just gonna be a landscaping block, you know, that'll deteriorate over time. This is real stone, which, kind of is very similar to things that have been used in other projects of the city, are cornerstones at the corners of the street, the clock tower, things of that nature. So it's gonna be a very classy project. But it does serve multiple purposes, and, you know, just appreciate all your support. If you have any questions about it, the project, or?
Eric kind of touched on that. I mean, it's a 56-year-old volunteer fire department. We just like to acknowledge those members that hit certain strides, and we like to acknowledge those members when they pass. We just feel this will do both.
Statue isn't exact by any means. It's, Russ likes to do only original work because of copyright issues and whatnot, so therefore it will be one of our firefighters as a model, and it'd be photographed and then specifically designed, you know, from that. So just the picture doesn't do it justice as far as that goes. But I'm sure most of you have probably seen his work, and, you know, so it'll be very, you know, high quality.
No, that was, those ones out on Broadway.
Yeah.
No, that was the guy out of Omaha.
That was rushed on all the eagles
Yeah,
throughout the county.
yeah, those turned out great.
Lima, Francis Lima's brother,
Started with
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
E, but
John Lima, did those. The Bayless Park and
We know it's a lot of money. I'll be honest with you, I was sticker shocked. They've talked about it for the last 12 years. I didn't think it'd be that kind of resources, but I mean, you can see in front of you what it takes to accomplish this in today's market.
Well, I like how, you know, just off the cuff, seeing what you have here, I mean, what I like about it is it's functional, you know, so not only is it kind of placemaking kind of item, it's something that I think you'll be able to get a lot of use out of with your marquee, having put messaging out there. I think that's important for you, for your city, and, you know, I think it's a great project, so. Thanks for breaking down the cost.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, we have one town left.
Yeah, we got a Avoca next Tuesday, and then we're done with them.
And then the board will get together, take a look at all the projects that were submitted, and come back to each town with a couple of choices for each town to make, and we're gonna move forward.
All right, guys, thanks for your time.
Thanks for coming in.
See you.
All right, next up, we have
All right, thanks for
Oscar Duran with the Executive Director of the Housing Agency. Presentation regarding housing challenges in our community. Oscar, you are up.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all so much. And, you know, it's so fun coming to the Board of Supervisors meeting. I'm a civic volunteer at my heart. I love getting involved in the community, so thank you all for your service as well. I know y'all have to make a lot of tough decisions, not enough money, right? And a lot of great things going on. Well, today I'm going to make it easier on you. All I'm doing today is I wanted to introduce myself, the work that we do, and really start to facilitate a conversation. And I really encourage y'all to ask questions. Before I jump in, I want to just tell you real quick a little bit about me so we know where this is all coming based from. I'm from Southern Texas originally, but in about 1995, we moved to the Midwest, and we made Council Bluffs our home. So my mom and my dad live just 2 blocks from here. My office is right across the street, and so Council Bluffs is near and dear to my heart in a lot of ways. And so with that, though, I've also been in the construction industry since I was about 10 years old, swinging hammers, restoring old buildings and stuff and old homes. And then about 16 years ago, I stumbled into affordable and low-income housing work. And I learned a lot. I was a grassroots organizer that just wanted to tear down some condemned homes in my neighborhood I saw little kids walking by, and that led into a really big career that's really great in this area. And I was always on the other side of the river in Omaha, and I always looked over and said, gosh, what can we do over in Council Bluffs a little different? You know, how can I help that community as well and have the skill sets I do? Well, this opportunity came up about 2.5 years ago, right in the middle of COVID. Your previous executive director retired. And so we applied, we met with the board of commissioners there. We have 5 of them for our municipal group. And from there, I'm going to tell you kind of a little bit about what PHAs are. So the Municipal Housing Agency of Council Bluffs is what's considered a PHA, Public Housing Agency, a housing authority, right? Now, there's over 4,800 of them in the country, and there's about 120 of them in the state of Iowa. And we are about, if you're looking at like a boxing weight class, we're in about 7th the largest. We're the 7th biggest fighter in the state of Iowa. Regal Towers, one of our public housing communities, it's the 2nd largest public housing community in the state of Iowa as well. Something else to help, right? Like, these are things we kind of want to know. So with that, we're going to start with the first slide. We have a mission, it's a why. We all deserve a place to call home. Like I said, over 15 years in the low-income housing sector. I'm a statistician as well. I was surprised about now how little I knew about housing authorities. I've been in the housing world deep for so long. And the more I started talking to more folks, public servants, citizens, I started learning that a lot of folks don't know. A lot of housing authorities, not intentionally, but operate in silos. But they have such critical data. Who in here has heard about that we got a housing challenge going on? Right? It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So I thought, you know what would be great? We need to talk to the community about what's our first line of defense. It's a housing authority. We don't think about it that way. It is the first sustainable hope from homelessness prevention. And so I'm going to give you a little glimpse about what we do. Now I'm going to tell you we've redesigned how we deliver service, because I come from a very low income family, a single mother that just worked real hard. And I'm always thinking in my head, I was like, gosh, she never took help. Like my mom always worked 3 jobs and took care of me. You know, she wasn't that kind, but I always think about what my mom could have done had she known about services like this. For example, the public housing program, one of our programs, it's been around since 1938. The Housing Choice Voucher Program has been around since the 60s. We had never heard of any of this. And so please feel encouraged to ask questions as I'm going through this, because I want to be here in front of you all and help you all know this isn't just ours. This is our community's programs, right? This is our first line of defense. So our why, we all deserve a place to call home. That's our motto over here at MHA, and we really believe that. So how do we serve? So we have 2 core programs, okay, and every housing authority does, and they can be simplified this way. The first one is the public housing program. In the public housing program, we own the property, right? We manage them as well. And so we have 2 public housing communities here in Council Bluffs. Regal Towers right next door, 8-story. That's the real big one that I was telling you about. And then we have Dudley Court over on 23rd Street. Now, between these 2 public housing communities, we serve 295 households in our community with low-income housing support, okay? 100% occupied. When I arrived, we were right about 95%. We're back up to 100%. And I'll give you some details on our wait list here in a little bit. Our Housing Choice Voucher Program, this is our largest housing initiative in the country that we do, right? This is what's formerly called Section 8, okay? And I like to call it the Housing Choice Voucher Program because it's so much larger than just calling it Section 8. And Section 8 can come with a lot of negative connotation, you know, but there's a lot of folks that it's serving so many families imperatively. Right now, we're operating at about 94%. Because of some specific housing challenges I wanted to get on you all's radar. I don't know what we're going to do about it yet, but I want us to start planting seeds, getting ready for harvest next year, right? Well, we have 750 households we're roughly serving right now. And here's another interesting number. You know, we say, how do we engage landlords? I thought this would be important for you all to know. Right now in Council Bluffs, we're partnering with 175 different landlords just in the Council Bluffs jurisdiction. So we do have a lot of landlord engagement. And then there's a variety of them. So go to the next slide, please. Thank you so much, by the way. So I put this slide together. This is our program snapshot. So this is a snapshot in time from October 1st. I wanted to show you all, because like I mentioned once before, I think I was telling Mr. Bell, my goal is I'd like to get in front of you once a quarter and let you know how our community's doing. And I think you'll kind of appreciate hearing some of this data, because you have to make a lot of decisions, and the housing is a big piece of it. So right now, with our public housing program, and the total number of families served is representing about 28% of our households served in public housing, right? So 295 units between the 2 communities. But right now, we have 117 families on our waiting list. That means families who need housing, and they need the public housing program. And the public housing program and the Housing Choice Voucher Program are very different in terms of who they serve. Same idea, but, you know, they require different pieces. So, and then we also have 9 families on top of the 117 that are put in applications, but we're trying to get their applications complete so we can process them. Another idea, so Regal's maxed out, Dudley Court's maxed out in terms of families served. We have about 45 households turnover from year to year. That's from a variety of reasons. People getting gainfully employed, folks' disability status changing, folks passing, sometimes some legal stuff. We run a very, security of all of our residents is very important to us, so sometimes things turn over that way. For the Housing Choice Voucher Program, this is the big one, right? This is 64% of our families served. Now, right now, we're batting at about 665 families served in Council Bluffs. Now, that's down from 705. And I'll tell you, I'm a real competitive person, and so I was really trying to max this program out as much as we can, because that means that's more of our citizens, more of our neighbors, our brothers, our sisters, our grandparents that we're serving through these programs. And so the reason, though, why are we struggling? I can tell you right now, if you look down here a little bit more, we have 450 families on the waiting list on top of that are waiting, and they've been on there for a long time. But if we break that in even more, right now, on top of those 665, we have roughly about 40 families who have actually already gotten briefed, pulled off the wait list, qualified. They're out looking for housing right now. We have another 40 coming in the pipeline. So 80 families on top of that 665. Now, I'm going to tell you, I got a big heart. The thing that breaks my heart is I know 80 of them are not going to be able to find housing. That would put us over what we can serve. So why are we sending so many out there? Because our success rate for our families getting out there is low. We're struggling in our community for 1-bedrooms and studios right now. There's just not enough inventory for low-income families. Some folks, there's some negative connotations sometimes that come out and say, oh, folks should get jobs, folks should do this. They don't understand the different types of breadth of people who are getting served by our program. A lot of folks on fixed incomes, elderly, disabled, single parents, and we have a lot of families working. And I'll tell you too, a lot of families actually pay a good portion of their salary. In fact, the way HUD has structured these programs are they're going to pay 30% of their income for their housing, just like most of us do, and the banks hold us to that standard, right? So I'll give you an example. Just in Regal and Dudley in our public housing program, we collect about $1.1 million a year in rents. It's not enough to manage them big buildings, trust me. But that shows you that's what that portion of the families that we're serving, our residents are investing in their housing stock. So if anybody tells y'all, oh, they just give them housing. No, y'all know better now, right? So the other part of it, and this is what's really fun, 85 families, 8% are serving through special purpose voucher programs. Now, I love these because I like when we can get creative and serve families a more specific way. I know we got I heard veterans coming up. We actually have an allocation of 20 veterans vouchers. And these are vouchers specifically to assist veteran households. I can tell you we've been maxed out since I've gotten here. 20 veteran households we can serve through this program. Now, I've reached out to the VA twice trying to see because I have to have their permission to get more because I know we need more. Hasn't gotten there yet, but I think that's going to be something we're going to work on, right? Because I know we want to serve more veterans. The other big one that we started here, the mainstream voucher program. HUD started, I should say. When I showed up, though, we had less than 2 households out of our allocation of 54 vouchers. 2. Couldn't figure out how to get them served. So we went through our list real tediously, and you know what we did? We found more families to lease up. This allowed our community to serve more. Those are 85 families we were not serving in this community less than 2.5 years ago that we're serving now. And with our mainstream, this is for households that are of 62 years of age or less and then have a disability in there. So think of folks in that age group, right? And this is, why is that challenging? Well, because I'll tell you right now, how many 504 accessible units do we have in Council Bluffs for households under 55? 0 right now, right? And it's the way, unfortunately, the LIHTC structure is set up, right? Low-income housing tax credits. And not to villainize it, but what that means is the way they're responding to those developments, we have a lot of families trying to serve when they're doing it. They make more sense to do them as elderly assisted families. Well, what about the single mother who's got a daughter in a wheelchair and she's on a fixed income? She's working her ass, she's working her stuff off, right? Trying to take care of her kid. What about her? This is why we have to start approaching it differently, and the mainstream program is a fantastic vehicle for that. Now, I forgot to mention this, so the big difference between the two programs, the voucher program, Housing Choice Voucher, partners with the private market, right? That's the landlord partnership. Public housing is just us, really. The last one that's been a hard go at it is our foster youth to interdependence. This is for our foster youth who are leaving and exiting the foster care system. It's a new high-priority special purpose voucher program. We were at 7 a few months ago, but I can tell you, we were leading the tri-state area for a while. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it takes a lot to get a young man or woman who's been in a foster care system for a while to want to keep working with the government for assisted housing. It actually took one-on-ones with some of them to show them that housing stability is essential. This could set them on a different trajectory for their future. So this one's passionately for us. We love this program. And right now we got 4 kiddos. One of them just had a baby of her own. And this is an opportunity for them to really build a bridge for them to get out of poverty. That's why I love it. It's hitting at the young people and getting them a handout, not a handout, really early. So the public housing and housing choice voucher program, this is something I like to put out there because I share a version of this with the community as well. So, because honestly, tell folks to apply. These are very heavily regulated programs. They are not what's considered low barrier housing. You can't just call us and we can get you in a unit right away. It takes, best case scenario, 60 days to even process your application to get in there, right? But you don't want to know something else we found out when I got here. When I arrived, Council Bluffs, like a lot of large municipalities, their housing waiting list was closed. It had been closed for over 13 months. And in fact, when I went through historical records, the wait list only opened up once about every 18 months for half a day. And it filled up and closed. That's not even, how do we serve families if our core program, our main line of defense wasn't accessible, right? Sorry, Mr. Shea, I know you just moved here last week. Apply in maybe 18 months. Maybe we can help you. That doesn't work, does it? So we strategized a different approach.
Why does it take at least 60 days?
It takes 60 days because the family has to get a lot of different documentation together for what type of income sources they do have. And then they also have to come get scheduled for a briefing. And, you know, humans, especially when they're struggling with some different things, communication can be the fastest thing. If somebody could get all their stuff into us, we could process it in less than 30 days. But we have a lot of families, especially when we're working with families who are coming from the shelters, who don't have a Social Security card. So then we have to work with the Social Security Administration because that's part of our federal requirements. So it's tracking in some of those. But we did expedite that process, though. We found a way that we can start the application sooner because we found a copy of it and while they've ordered a new one. We just can't lease them up until it's got a real one, though, right? Great question, though. So the 3 tips, if you know anybody who's applying or somebody who's like, gosh, I applied once a long time ago and they never said anything, they never answered. Here are the 3 tips for success from a frontline practitioner perspective. If they can do these 3, we're going to maximize their time. The first one, make sure they put a complete application in together for either the public housing or the housing choice voucher program. And you know what I tell folks when they call? We probably field easily 40 calls a day. 40 calls a day of folks looking for housing assistance, right? They're not always us, but they're coming to us because they hear housing authority or housing agency. Well, they need a complete application. That's going to help expedite it. And the biggest thing I always say, we've really gone through all of our customer service delivery models, and we made sure that all of our team is ready to help as intensively as possible. So all they got to do is ask questions, right? The next piece, great communication is essential. They need to be checking their mail, answering their voicemails. The moment that they're put on that, they don't want to take the application longer. We don't want it to be 60 days. We want it to be fewer. The next piece is don't miss their appointments. We have way too many families, unfortunately, after all the work, we kind of lose communication with them. They miss their appointments. Too many is it's not the majority, but it's too much. It makes me sad because they've been on the list so long. And because we're heavy regulated, we got to deliver bad news regularly, which means not approving voucher assistance and stuff. But we have a highly dedicated team trying to change this and make things better for our community. Thank you. So we have 4 places where to apply, and I know I mentioned the wait list being closed, and it's open now. Our current wait list is open, and it's going to continue to be open as long as I can keep HUD at believing in the equation I'm presenting. And again, this is why I like it open. if somebody ever applies and says, well, gosh, I hear their wait list is 450 people, why would I even apply? We utilize what are called preferences. The federal government allows our community to input what are called preferences and how we're gonna serve. So in Council Bluffs, our current preferences are elderly, disabled, and folks who are living and or working in Council Bluffs. Now, we gotta be able to serve everybody, but if people meet all of those things, right, they get more preference points. That means they can go higher on the line. So the place in the waiting list line can be a moving target. Let's just say you hear a lot, I know there's a proposed legislation coming down in Iowa for something against, what they called, portability. You know, and so the cool thing with the Housing Choice Voucher Program is it's a portable voucher, right? It means a family can take their assistance, and anywhere in the US territories that has a public housing or a Housing Choice Voucher Program, they could move to if they qualify to get in there. They can take their voucher, it's portable. We usually have about 20 to 30 families who are porting out into different communities. Right now, we don't have any. We have 12 right now, I'm sorry. And then we usually also have about 60 or 70 from different communities who are porting in, above our total families served. Next one. This is just our contact information. Like I said, I wanted to more give a quicker presentation, introduce some core concepts, and then really kind of just tell you about some pieces we're really trying to work with right now. And the biggest one is we need some more housing, and we need some more low-income housing, specifically around one and bedrooms. And I think the next piece is, I don't know what the next ideas that we're gonna need are, but I know we're gonna need partnerships. A more integrated relationship with the county, a more integrated relationship with the city. And here's a big number I say for last. Do you know how much we invest a month just into our Housing Choice Voucher Program and rental subsidies? $375,000 a month is how much this program is, just in Council Bluffs. That's how much we're assisting families with rental assistance, so they can be housed in our landlords' homes, right? They're paying rent. This is a big system. This is a very important system, you know, and so things like that are gonna continue to evolve. That's a big number. All of that is only 100% federally funded.
That's where your funding comes from.
Only, yep.
Okay.
And nothing, and this isn't anything again, and I don't think we've been asked, but there's no support from the state, none from the county, none from the city. Now, are all public housing authorities that way? Absolutely not. But I think they built a stronger relationship. So I want to start that relationship because I can tell you, the dollars that they give us are very lean. There's not enough, and I'll tell you one of my biggest struggles right now, I got a team, because we're quasi-government, we're not city employees. As my dad would say, we're the redheaded stepchildren of government, right? So what it means is we don't qualify for the public health care. So I got a team of 24 folks where they can't get health care coverage for their dependents right now. Makes it tough to keep young families working for us in the social justice realm. This is challenge one. Two of them, the capital funds needed to improve these projects is really costly, our public housing communities. We invest roughly about $600,000 to $700,000 a year to maintain our properties, to keep them clean, living, safe, affordable. So, any other questions specifically?
So HUD originally gave the money to build these projects then,
Mm-hmm.
and then they didn't figure out how to sustain the.
They did. Great question. So Regal Towers was built in 1973. It opened up, and it was part of a grant application. It's funny, Council Bluffs actually engaged with the federal government in the late 50s to start this relationship. It took the community, our community, 10 years to get that first property to where they knew they needed it. They saw a need. And so once we did, we got it open there.
Didn't the sustainability
Oh.
for to keeping it operational?
They have a grant called the Capital Funds Grant, and that's what we apply to each year, and it's based on our occupancy. Now, luckily, since we've been at 100% occupancy, we get a max award on that. And so that's our fund to maintain the property. That and then the rents we collect.
So what kind of number is that annually for the?
And the Capital Funds Grant, it's competitive, semi-competitive, and it's based on how much the allocation is over at the White House, or over in Washington. And we're looking at, like, this next year coming up for 2023, we got an award of roughly about $598,000. And
For both properties?
for both properties, yeah. And that's for our Capital Funds Grant. But I'll tell you, it's not as easy as it is. We can't just go out there spending money. We got to procure everything. I heard some folks talking about contractor registration, and because we're an 8-story, we need a Class A contractor over there. So believe me, and we have to use Davis-Bacon in Section 3, so we're paying at least 1.4% higher on most things than we have to. But we have a really good procurement team now as well, and we're trying to piggyback on existing state contracts, city contracts, to maximize those dollars.
So do you service any of the outer communities in Pot County then, or not?
We don't directly, indirectly we do though. We take a lot of applications from out there. We are only serve Council Bluffs, so we don't serve Carter Lake or the rest of Pot County. Surha does, it's the next PHA that serves a rural area. I know they're, at least the last time I checked, they have a lot of available vouchers. They're different, you know, we're in a larger metropolitan area, so our needs are a little different. But yeah.
Sir, is that Creston?
Kristen? Yeah, I believe so. Mhm. They got a pretty good territory. We're about the same size of a PHA, even though we have a smaller geography.
So I got a question on your veterans that you have housed there. Are they, so is that a HUD VASH program?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they, I guess I don't want to identify too much, but I guess, is it directly tied in your facility with disability then? Does it have to be?
They don't have to be disabled.
So my next question, I guess, then leads me to, so my understanding of HUD VASH is a temporary, it's like a transitional type fund. So I mean, it's not like a long-term, or is it just as long as they qualify, they can be there kind of thing?
As long as they qualify for their voucher and they don't do anything to get them, like, if they didn't get evicted from their property or something, or they didn't have any criminal offense. We do a re-annual certification with every family served per our regulations. Make sure that nothing else has happened, they still qualify, but a really good question though.
And then are those vetted through just like federal side of the VA, or are we doing that locally?
It's done locally, so with our special purpose voucher programs, specifically that one in the foster youth to interdependence, they have another entity, another institution that has to provide the referrals. So in the case of VASH, it has to come from the VA, whose office is in Omaha. And then for the foster youth, it comes from DHS, who we have a regular meeting with. You know, it's really interesting though, I mean, because, and nothing against them, but I know statistically we can serve more veterans. You know, in the last call we had, they said, well, gosh, no, we can't use anymore. And I do know that maybe they don't have any more referrals, but in my mind, I'm like, gosh, okay, what are we missing as a community? We know there's more than 20 veterans that need assistance in housing, right? It's just math. So how do we get to them? And I think that's where it starts to become, well, it's not just the housing agency. This is a team communication, right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
A lot of good information, Oscar.
Well, I'm really grateful for y'all's time and thank you for your service too. So.
Can I finish with one question?
Yes, please.
One of your 3 tips for success says a complete application.
Mm-hmm.
Your last statement says too many of our denials are from incomplete applications. You give them an opportunity to repair the application, fix the application, and reapply, or you just turn them over?
Absolutely, we do. Fantastic question. We reach out with communication, phone calls. We used to just do letters. One of the customer service things we made, I was like, you can't just send a letter. You got to call them. We got to call them and see what's going on. Get them on the phone. Give them as much time as we can. We have to submit what's called our administrative plan to HUD and have it approved as well. And that is kind of our guidelines. That's our operating Bible, if you will, on how we structure it here on top of the federal regs. Yeah. So we give them more time. And another thing, if anybody's ever gets denied for application or they're terminated their assistance, they have a right to a hearing. And we have a few hearing officers, and we review, gosh, probably 20 hearings, you know, roughly every 2 months. And so that's folks that like, okay, I don't agree with this. And so we work with legal aid's a partner. They're on the other side, but it's a very healthy relationship where we're trying to understand, because sometimes things get missed and it's not always as black and white as it is, right? Time and barred debts. I could tell you all kinds of adventure stories, legalese, but they do have plenty of opportunities. So if anybody ever says they don't, just be like, oh, just call the Housing Choice Voucher Office. Everybody has a right to a hearing, so.
So do you have a board that you serve with?
We do, yes. So my directs are a board of 5 that are nominated by the mayor and appointed by the city council. So we have 5 board of commissioners, and that's no more, no less. That's what was set up in our charter as Council Bluffs.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So those board members are from
Yep, all here locally.
all the city folks?
No, they're all volunteers. It's a fully volunteer role. We have a person who's an attorney, a former person in finance. We have a person from Advanced Southwest Iowa, another person from a housing agency and a social service, and then another person who works with youth education. We're trying to get, as we're kind of evolving and becoming more sophisticated, trying to find more board members with different types of entities that could assist our families even more. Because a lot of folks think, hey, once we get them housed, everything's solved, right? No, that's just where the work really starts. Families really need more support to get them to a higher level of income so they can be more happy here in our community, so. Y'all got great questions today. I'm really grateful for y'all.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank y'all kindly. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Oscar.
thanks so much. Next up, we have Matt Wyatt and Pam Colstrup, zoning, second consideration of ordinance 2022-06, amending the zoning map of Potawatomi County, changing the district designation of approximately 12.92 acres from Class A2 to Class C2, and adopt ordinance 2022-06 into law. Matt, Pam, any comments on this one? This was the,
Van Wall, just south of Avoca, the John Deere implement dealer down there is expanding their operations. They own 2 different parcels that are down there. This is gonna allow them use to what would be their east parcel of ground down there. I believe it's gonna be good for Potawatomi County. It's definitely good for the city of Avoca. It sits right there on the highway. Heavily used anytime we can get a business like that who's been in the area for a long time to expand. I think it's great that we're all willing to work with them and be able to make this thing
I'll
happen.
make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Just one question. Do we notify the adjacent landowners on this?
People within 500 feet
Okay.
of that property.
Okay.
is there any other discussion from Matt or Pam?
No, we discussed it last week.
Mr. Hauser, call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman.
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Groby.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
And Shay.
Aye.
Next up, we have our auditor, Mr. Melvin Hauser. Discussion, decision to approve and authorize the chair to sign EBS group renewal effective January 1, 2023 through December 31, 2023. With a change to the section 125 IRS maximum from $2,850 to $3,050 for medical annual contribution. Mr. Hauser, you're up.
This is just a change from the IRS, probably because cost of healthcare is going up. But your EBS card, which was, you could only, employees could only max out $2,850. Now the IRS is allowing it to go to $3,050, and just needs board approval
Motion
to sign.
Any other discussion for Melvin on that? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Next up, we have public comment. Did anyone sign the? No, public comment. All right. Next up, we have Matt Wilbur, Potawatomi County Attorney, closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.5, parent 1, parent C, for pending or political, or potential, political litigation, potential litigation.
So moved.
Second.